I'm glad that we celebrate the Feast of St. Martha today. Are there any Marthas today? In name, anyway. There may be many of you in terms of the way you respond to life as Martha. Any Marthas? Well, St. Martha, to that aspect of Martha that is true to all who are here. Just a few words about Martha and Mary. Traditionally, the passage that we hear about Martha and Mary is where Jesus comes to visit, and Martha is very busy about preparing a little something so that he can be nourished, that he can eat, and while Mary is quietly listening to his word. And traditionally, at least the way it has been interpreted in many places, that both of these women have symbolic values, not only real values, that one is more quiet, more reflective, and more focused on meditation and contemplation and hearing God's word, whereas Martha is busy about doing many things. And I think sometimes that Martha does not get a fair shake, and I think it has to be rectified a little bit, because basically what we have here are people with two different personalities, and perhaps one is a little bit more active, more responsive, and the other one is more laid back. And that's true as we all are, as we all have different personalities. So the light of God's Spirit comes through us differently. It comes out differently, and it's good that there are those differences. Just when I reflect on the passage that we didn't read, which actually comes from Luke's Gospel, the traditional passage about Martha and Mary, that Martha seems to be fretting about getting something prepared for Jesus, while Mary is at his feet listening. And you get the impression from that reading is that the writer, in that case Luke, is placing more emphasis on the importance of Mary who listens to God's word. But you think from the other standpoint, here is Jesus coming to visit. He didn't take a bus. There weren't buses at that time, or he didn't drive in a car. He walked. And so he probably was tired. He was thirsty, maybe a little bit hungry. So the first thing you would think as he comes to visit the home of friends, this is another beautiful part, that Martha, Mary, and Lazarus are a little group where he felt comfortable. And so it was understandable that Martha would fret a little bit to prepare a little something, at least something to drink, something cool, and something to eat, because he came a distance. And so that there is certainly a value in what she did, not only a value, something very precious, that she thought about taking care of him before they could all sit down and discuss what friends do discuss. And, you know, I often thought about this, about sort of Martha being far away in the kitchen. They didn't have mansions in those days. They were very small homes, very humble homes, so probably 2 rooms, maybe 3 rooms, small. So really the conversation that takes place in one room can be heard easily in the other. But I think the role of Martha also has to be highlighted, because they represent different personalities, and that's the way we respond to life. That's the way we respond to our families and our loved ones accordingly. And both are needed. That was very interesting. I don't know whether you listen carefully to the gospel reading. When Jesus was coming again to visit Martha and Mary, this was after the death of Lazarus. And so a few days had gone by, and they heard that Jesus was on the way. So who was the first one to go out to meet Jesus? It was Martha. And it was in a very appropriate context. their brother had just died, so she and Mary as well, they were feeling grief very much. And so Martha is the one, while interestingly, just one sentence is said in the scriptures, while Mary stayed at home. That was good too, but Martha came out to greet Jesus as he was approaching, and there was certainly a value in that. So he could learn a little bit of background. What were the circumstances of the death of Lazarus? And a very interesting conversation takes place there about resurrection, which is very important, which really highlights the role of Martha. Because Martha says to Jesus, "Oh, no, if you had been here, he would not have died." But Jesus said to her, he said, "I am the resurrection and the life. No matter when, that Lazarus will never die, because resurrection is new life. So whether I was there or not, he already shares new life." And she has probably got to be a little puzzled by this talk of resurrection. But then Jesus says to her, "I am the resurrection and the life. He or she who believes in me will never die. Do you believe this?" Now, in the course of a conversation, that's a pretty heavy question. And what does Martha do? Martha responds and says, "I do believe that you are the Son of God. You are the resurrection and life. You are the one who comes to give us life when we are facing death." So it's really Martha who in the end, because this is in John's Gospel, this is written much later after Luke, this is Martha, the one to whom is given this very basic and important teaching. I am the resurrection and the life. No matter when, whether it's the end of death or after death, I am resurrection and life. And it's Martha who very boldly, she doesn't do anything, she says something very important. I do believe that you are the resurrection and life. And so, maybe we sometimes form too much of a difference, a dichotomy between Martha and Mary, but they represent two visions, two outlooks, both of which are important in life. Because we do know as we go on in life, we need those who maybe are a little bit more laid back and reflective, and that's good. In the proper circumstances and times, we all need contemplation, a time to slow down, meditation. But when the time is appropriate, we need people to act, to be at service. This is what has to be done. And that's where balance in life comes about.